Awesome. First of all, thank you all for joining, and thank you for giving us this opportunity to share what we have learned based on our practical experience from migrating from Oracle to PostgreSQL. Today, we are here to talk about the Oracle-to-PG open source tool, which we have used extensively in some of the migrations that we have basically used, right? So before going in, there was supposed to be a third speaker, Mr. Y.V. Ravikumar. He's a mentor for both Funny and me, and he has been an Oracle Certified Master and has extensive years of experience for the past 28 plus years. Unfortunately, because of an work-related issue, he's unable to join today. But again, he was supposed to be part of it and could not join today. And a little bit of introduction about myself. I have a little bit over 16 plus years of experience. I've started my career as a database administrator, primarily Oracle, then moved into SQL Server, and then kind of started focusing on my open source related databases, wherein that's where we see the community strength and value. Started focusing on PostgreSQL, MySQL, and started contributing back to the open source forums as well. I had the opportunity to kind of publish technical books, under the guidance of Mr. Ravi, and also my co-author, Mr. Funny, who is our other speaker today. And proud to be part of the PostgreSQL Association of United States. So that is where we tend to come in and bring some of the expertise that we have built over the years and kind of come in and share as well. Been a speaker at several different global forums in here, and had the opportunity to continue sharing what we learned, and also learn from other speakers and open source contributors as well. I'll take a pause in here, and I'll let Mr. Funny introduce himself. Funny, please go ahead.
Thank you, Arun. Thank you, Postgres, for giving this opportunity. So myself, Funny Kadambari, am one of the database and cloud specialists working across multiple databases. And I have privileged working alongside Arun and my mentor, Ravi. And I have published one of the recent books on Postgres administration. And I'm one of the technical reviewers for MySQL database as well. Here we are to present our expertise or our inputs on how we migrate from Oracle to Postgres using one of the greatest tools, Oracle-to-PG.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So moving on, today, what we wanted to basically do is, even before talking about the Oracle-to-PG as a tool, we wanted to basically cover the business use cases, right? Why does people or companies normally try to migrate from Oracle to Postgres to begin with? What are some of the drivers that you're talking about, right? And then we are going to quickly touch upon what exactly is Oracle-to-PG and what does it offer in terms of helping us migrate from Oracle to PostgreSQL. And we'll dive into a little bit about the migration architecture and the steps that are involved in the migration process. Of course, there are some benefits, with this migration. We are going to cover on what are those benefits that we have experienced in our respective companies in the past, and what are some of the challenges that we could potentially run from a practical standpoint, and also some best practice recommendations. And first of all, why PostgreSQL? We have other open source databases as well and everything. Why PostgreSQL specifically when migrating away from Oracle? The very first thing is the open source freedom and the close compatibility with the Oracle ecosystem. That's what PostgreSQL basically brings in. And it's like 100% open source. The biggest strength of one of the PostgreSQL communities is its community. Absolutely, huge number of community members heavily contribute into this open source database technology, and that's where a lot of innovation continuously happens. And with being an open source, there is no vendor lock-in, and you always have full control over your data and architectural choices. And this is a world-class database, right, wherein it kind of provides the scalability, high availability, and it's also purpose built for multi-cloud, wherein all of these major engineering companies also heavily invest in contributing to the open source community, which is a huge plus for this organization in general. And if you look at it in all of the major cloud providers like Azure, AWS, GCP, all of these major cloud providers provide this PostgreSQL as an offering, right? And it is backed up, heavily backed up by the open source communities in terms of it. Uh, of course, you could always deploy and kind of configure or architect in a way wherein you could deploy your Postgres database as a multi-cloud solution as well, if that is something that your company is looking for. Coming back to the scalability and the high availability aspect of it, right? So unlike uh, any other database system, right, which is widely used across all of the different enterprises. This PostgreSQL database also supports native replication, which has both streaming and logical sort of replication built in, right? And the other thing is for horizontal scaling, you could create your read replicas and also open it for read-only workloads as well. That's the other beauty of it. And you could scale and distribute horizontally as well. Of course, with any of the larger workloads, you would require partitioning and parallel query capabilities. PostgreSQL natively supports all of those things as well. And you do have the biggest beauty of the PostgreSQL system is its rich extension ecosystem. Using some of these extensions, right? You have the Citus extension, you have the Patroni. Using some of these different extensions, you could actually scale and also increase your high availability as well. Fully supports both the JSON capabilities, full text search capabilities, supporting all of your non-schema workloads as well. And it is easily extensible with respect to integrating to some of the AI workloads and the machine learning workloads that are coming up as well in general. And the biggest benefit is being open source. There is zero licensing cost that is involved. And of course, some of the companies, they do rely on some managed cloud service providers for some of the operational support of things. But again, if you are capable enough, you could always rely on the open source community related information to be able to support and all of your workloads by yourself. And eventually, the whole point of it is being open source. PostgreSQL is basically built for to scale and being highly available, and also being multi-cloud database as well. And first of all, why migrate away from Oracle? In general, Oracle, the licensing cost comes up for any of the major enterprises that we see in here, especially when you're hosting the vital, the critical workloads within your ecosystem. Uh, you know, by design, Oracle, you need to have some sort of licenses baked in, either a CPU based or a named user processor based licenses. So considering all of that, there is some licensing cost per core that we got to basically pay. On an average, given if you're considering at least 10 CPU cores on your physical machine, the virtual adds the additional core factor in there. On an average, we have seen companies are saving about easily 200 plus dollars in general in licensing costs. That is one of the biggest drivers in terms of cost savings. And the other thing, people are also looking at the value that the PostgreSQL database generally provides. With all of the native built-in features and the rich extension and the open source community support, PostgreSQL is one of the leading open source database providers that are in the market, and it's a popular choice for majority of the enterprises. And also its close compatibility with the Oracle ecosystem. Later on in this presentation that we are going to cover cover and compare what we have learned over the years on what the close comparity or the close parity between these two databases as well, which will give you some additional information in terms of it. And what this also avoids is being open source, right? You have the flexibility to choose between database providers, and you could easily migrate away, from there is no vendor lock-in that is basically involved in there. And also, given the strong community support and the innovation that kind of happens within this space, there is always this innovation velocity that we are talking about. As and when we speak, there are several open source developers consistently working on delivering some of this to back to the community, and that's where the biggest strength lies in. And we get benefited a lot from it in general. And we are happy to contribute back in terms of knowledge sharing and sharing our experiences, testing some of these releases ahead of time, right, and sharing our knowledge through this. And what it also breaks down is the cloud migration barriers. If you're if you're running on Postgres in general, right, since it is available on across all of the major cloud providers that are out there, there is no specific cloud service provider that you would want to use. As long as you're able to design your architecture either as a multi-cloud, or you could always choose a migration path as well. This is the high-level feature comparison that we kind of came up with, right? In terms of how we wanted to compare, wherein we kind of compared all of the different features that we are seeing in here. For example, what type of the licensing model, like the standard SQL compliance, JSON support, partitioning, and all of these different major features that are required for any of the applications to basically work, right? Or any of the applications to work for a full-blown functionality. And if you look at it, most of the both Oracle and PostgreSQL has their own services in each one of to support each one of these features, right? And in majority of the things, you can see PostgreSQL does have an edge, right, in terms of some of the things, especially considering the open source community and the extensions capability that you have, right? And if you just look at the extensions and plugins that are out there, these are completely proprietary and has to be released and developed by Oracle explicitly, whereas Postgres, it gets benefited from the open source community that is out there. That's where you see a lot many extensions that are available to basically meet your business requirements. Imagine you have a specific business requirement that is out there. Let's say if there is an extension that is not available, you could always post your feature request to. This way, if any other community members are working along the same lines, they can always come back and contribute back to, and you even have the opportunity to collaborate in for the greater good as well. And if you look at the community in general, it is more community driven and ecosystem. These are some of the full things that we are looking at. In general, comparing both the database ecosystems, you would normally find everything that you see within Oracle is the PostgreSQL ecosystem also has it, right? And it would, from a functionality standpoint, you would definitely meet the business requirements that is out there. So now that we have looked at some of the business drivers or the business value that it is providing, so let's talk a little bit about what exactly is this Oracle-to-PG. Oracle-to-PG is an open source migration tool wherein you can actually migrate all of your Oracle database schemas and objects into a PostgreSQL format, right? So this was originally developed by Gilles Darrold, and thanks to him, I think he has done extensive work. If you look at the source code itself, he has put in a lot of work, and it's clearly organized in a way that anybody who is looking at the source code has, you'll be able to understand how it is all organized and segregated. We'll cover a little bit about this. And with respect to the migration capabilities, the Oracle-to-PG tool supports all the different database schema objects that are out there. For example, tables, views, and everything, triggers and packages. For everything, you basically are able to map and migrate everything using this open source Oracle-to-PG tool. Some of the key capabilities that we have here are you could export the complete schema as a whole, wherein it automatically converts each one of these Oracle DDL statements into PostgreSQL compatible syntax, right? And once you export it out and you try to run it as a script, each one of these DDL statements are already in the PostgreSQL compatible format for you, and you could just go run it on your PostgreSQL database. This way, all of the objects and everything gets created. Once the schemas are basically created, you worry about the data, and you can even export the data from the source and copy all of the data, as insert statements into large scale transfers. And the PL SQL packages and the stored procedures that we have here from PL SQL in Oracle, you would basically migrate to PL PG SQL, right? Wherein all of the Oracle stored procedures, triggers, and packages are converted into the PostgreSQL equivalents. So you could actually go execute on your PostgreSQL database. And the beauty of it is, even before initiating any of these things, right? So the beauty of this tool that we felt very useful was the assessment reports. Even before initiating any of this migration, you could actually run a full-blown assessment on your Oracle database, right? And you can look for compatibility with the PostgreSQL, right from starting with the version compatibility onto each one of the database object compatibility. It will clearly give you uh, you know guidance as to how you can actually do all of it. And of course, when you're migrating and talking about all of these different workloads and everything, parallel processing needs to be there to be able to migrate all of the data and to speed up all of the migration process, especially in terms of large scale databases. This is what the Oracle-to-PG open source tool basically brings to the table to be able to help us out when migrating from Oracle to PostgreSQL. What are the key benefits of migration? We have covered some of this as part of our business value award, right? So the biggest thing is cost reduction. That we have noticed the biggest driver in general, right? While PostgreSQL natively brings the additional uh, benefits of being cloud native ready, right? The scalability of it. Of course, there is no wonder lock-in being open source, and the performance of it, right? Provide some of the parallel query execution and everything. It comes with its own benefits, and even though it is open source, right? The biggest thing that it also brings in terms of the security and the compliance, very good. The ability to define some of these role level security policies as well. And there is this native encryption support that comes in, and it is PCI compatible and SOC 2 compatible. Being open source, that is also the biggest advantage that we have as well. It is no less than any enterprise grade database system, something to keep in mind. Having said that, the migration architecture looks like, for example, onto your left that you're seeing in here, right? Or for example, if you have your Oracle database with all of these different database objects, right? And onto your right, all of these different PostgreSQL database objects that are out there. Between both of these sits the Oracle-to-PG engine, wherein the Oracle-to-PG engine or the tool will actually read all of this data, all of this source data using the DBD Oracle module, and outputs to the Oracle PostgreSQL compatible SQL files and everything. And also from the source data that you're seeing in here, everything you could use it using the copy feature. You can copy all of the data once the schema and the metadata structures and everything are created. And if you look at the Oracle-to-PG engine itself, this is what I'm talking about. If you look at the source code, it is written in such a way and organized in such a way, there is this connection layer, right? If you look at the specific module for it is the Oracle CPAN module. That's what basically takes care of integrating or connecting your source database to your target database as well. And then you have the schema parser wherein it does all of the DDL analysis and the type mapping for you, right? And this can be configured as well as part of the when you're importing all of that into your Postgres database. And the PL SQL converter, that is where the actual all of the stored procedures and everything happens, wherein the original PL SQL statements are basically converted into the PL PG SQL side of things. Then you have the data exporter feature. That is where you copy all of your data and everything would be run as the insert statements in the target PostgreSQL database. And of course, the config engine, if at all you wanted to make any configuration changes and everything, the aura2pg.conf file is where you define how your destination um, how your destination schema should basically look like and everything. And we also have this report generator capability wherein you could generate all of the assessment reports and everything, wherein you kind of determine the migration complexity scoring. That will help us determine in terms of operationally how do you stabilize this, right? How do you plan for your migration? Is it an online migration or an offline migration? Those are some of the strategies that will help you determine by kind of going through this report generator. Overall, the Oracle-to-PG engine itself is structured and layered in such a way wherein it will take care of all of these different things for you natively. And it also gives us the flexibility to configure and customize based on our migration requirements. And the migration process typically, from our perspective, kind of listed down into like 6 steps. The very first thing is, right, always do run an assessment. Even before you migrate any of your workloads, do run an assessment, right? And if you run the Oracle-to-PG -type the show_report command, after configuring your Oracle-to-PG configuration file and everything, it will do an assessment of your source database, right? And generate that assessment report and kind of give us the migration complexity score. And it will also show any incompatibilities or also areas wherein you might have to manually change some of the code. This is more from the database developer side, wherein you might have to actually change specific code changes to be able to make it a PostgreSQL command. So that's the assessment that will help you determine the level of effort that will be involved in the overall migration process. And then the environment setup, right? Initially when we are starting with it, we kind of struggled with installing some of these modules. Now, with the latest releases of the Oracle-PG tools and everything, all of these modules are packaged in such a way, it's like a single step installation wherein it is seamless. That is where the environment setup is. And as part of the Oracle-PG configuration file, you determine what your source Oracle database is and also set the Oracle and the Oracle source connection string and also the Postgres connection string as part of the Oracle-PG configuration file. And that's the environment setup you're looking at. Sometimes that's the customization we are talking about. Sometimes you might choose to exclude some of the schemas from your source database and only migrate certain schemas. The Oracle-PG configuration file also gives us that flexibility. The next step is the actual schema migration itself. As we discussed, once we export all of these source details and everything, right? And the metadata and the schema structure is first created on the PostgreSQL, and all of the all of those is taken during the schema migration phase. And then comes the data migration. Now that we have all the schemas and the metadata created in there, now you export all of the data from the source database and migrate into. And of course, we need to do rigorous testing and validation once we kind of do it. You could always use automated regression testing things that you have figured out that fits your needs. Validate everything end to end. Make sure the performance is also up to the mark. And if there are any conversion issues that you basically come up, this is the phase you basically validate and make sure the application is working as expected in general. Once everything is tested and validated, right, determine the cutover side of migration methodology. Depending on your business requirements, you could choose a specific maintenance window, and you could determine a migration strategy that works for your migrations and everything. And once all the data and everything is in sync, you determine a maintenance window and kind of do a cutover and plan for it. And once you do the cutover, you'll have to make sure you're monitoring all of your workloads for a certain amount of time. That should fully take care of the migration process in general. Having said that, I'm gonna pass it back to Mr. Funny, wherein he would cover details about the different data types that we have and also take us into a demo environment.
Yeah, thank you, Arun, for explaining the details about Oracle-PG. Now, since Oracle and Postgres are two different databases, okay, there are, though they are under ANSYS SQL standards, okay, there are few Oracle there are few data types which are different in Oracle as well as in Postgres. Okay, so when performing the migration, we need to consider mapping these data types accurately for the objects and the respective columns uh, to be created or to modify during the assessment or the initial pre-migration phase. In case if these data types are not mapped correctly or they are not corrected during the migration phase, the data insertions or the migration itself would fail for the objects which are not following, the actual data type that Postgres would support. So there are few data types listed here, okay, which needs to be taken care into consideration during the assessment phase for which all objects or tables, okay, that would require the data type changes. Okay, so during the import phase or the data copy phase, while we create the objects, we need to ensure the definition is modified to support the data type on the Postgres side. If not, as said, there would be failures during the data insertions, and that would again cause additional time for us to troubleshoot and migrate the data. Uh, so keep in mind while during the assessment phase itself, identify what are all the data types, unique data types that exist on the Oracle side, and map and match them against the PostgreSQL which are supported. Yeah. Next slide. Okay. So with Oracle-to-PG, we have different ways of migrating the data between the databases. One is direct load method, and the other is bulk load, as well as the insert and the parallel data export. Okay. Uh, with the each migration method is used for specific data sizes that we have on the source. Okay. Uh, uh, so one of the examples I have shown on the right side is for what we do as a under the direct load method, where we can estimate the cost of the migration by generating a estimate report. So this particular configuration file or R2PG configuration file will be having the variables to be added on what needs to be migrated for the schema level. So when we generate the estimate report, it will give us how many objects will be exported and what would be the cost involved in the migration. And as part of it, we create a project. Okay, project is specific to something where it constructs a structural tree-related migration plan. Okay, where it creates subdirectories and scripts that are required to be migrated for each object type. Like if within an Oracle schema, we have different object types like tables, table partitions, sequences, indexes, or any non-data objects. Okay, for every object, there would be a subdirectory created, and there will be multiple scripts provided in order to perform the migration. And in the direct load method, what we do is we will have export underscore schema created that gets created as part of the project creation, which will have some parameters which we need to edit. As in case if we see here export type and the source type, uh, uh, the previous. Okay, what are all to be exported as part of this migration can be included here. And once the export is done, we can import based on the script that is created as part of the project, okay, to load the data into the Postgres table. And once the copy or import is done into Postgres, we have an option within Oracle-to-PG to validate the record count on both source and target and compare to confirm whether all the records from the tables and the other objects are copied or not. Next slide. Okay, so as part of this Oracle-to-PG prerequisite environment setup prerequisites, we need to install few Perl modules, okay, which are supporting, which will be supporting the Oracle-to-PG tool itself. Okay, so these are the mandatory Perl modules that needs to be installed along with the uh, Perl version. Perl version should always be higher than 5.6 or 5.6. If not, the utility itself will not work. Okay, and whatever the Perl modules that are listed, they are specific to the make utility to ensure the installation of Aura2PG works fine, and then the DBI, which is the database interface, which is used to connect or communicate or interact with the database systems. Okay, as well as the comprehensive Perl archive network, CPAN, is an interface which helps us to download the Perl modules. And ultimately, the final one, which is DBD Oracle, okay, which is uh, database driver for interacting with the Oracle databases. And once the Perl modules are installed, we need to install Oracle-to-PG, and where we can get it from either their all-site or SourceForge or GitHub. And one of the major requirements for this Oracle-to-PG to work is Oracle client. Okay, either it can be a regular client that gets installed on the system, or if we are migrating the database within the server, then we will definitely have the Oracle server installed, which will allow us to connect to the database. Okay, so in case if we are migrating it to a different system, ensure the Oracle client is installed on the same system where we are using the Aura2PG tool. Um, yeah, and on the right side, if we see the configuration file. Once we install the Aura2PG Aura2PG tool, it comes with a configuration file where numerous parameters or variables exist. Okay, so based on the requirement of for our migration, we do update the parameters and variables, and we leave few variables to be with as the default value. So in case if you see here, okay, we have few variables updated. For Oracle connection, we include the Oracle home, then the connectivity string on what the interface is Oracle, and what is the host that it needs to connect to, and what is the database SID that it needs to connect to, and which port it has to make the connection. Okay, and we use a migration user. Okay, it could be system or any additional user that we create with appropriate privileges that can be used here. And similarly, since Oracle-to-PG is a tool which connects to both source and the target Postgres as well, we need to add the variables for the connectivity of Postgres environment. Okay, if you see here, there is a host for the Postgres added, and the port, the default 5421, 5432, as well as the DB into which the schema needs to be migrated, and migration options. Okay, so as said, we need to initially validate what all objects that exist in the schema, and accordingly we need to include what are all the objects that we need to migrate in this type. And if you want, you can go with migrating a single schema, or you can include multiple schemas based on the need for you to migrate from Oracle to Postgres. And if you want, you can exclude any specific schemas which are created. Usually, the historical or archival data is maintained in a different where you don't want to bring the data onto new system. Okay, that those schemas can be excluded with the help of exclude parameter. And parallel tables, yes, we can export, and uh, uh, we can export multiple schemas in parallel and do the parallel processing of copying into Postgres. And yeah, on the left side, if you see, there are few default values like other variables like user grants, export schema, compile schema, output and output directory. Uh, so they have some default values, and based on your requirement, we can always have the values dated or edited in this configuration file before we take any uh, action.
Funny, sorry to
Yeah.
interrupt. Quick time check. We have about 15 minutes. If you want to showcase this as part of the demo, that
Uh,
will be
uh,
perfect.
sure. Next
Yeah,
slide.
1 second. Yeah.
What we have.
Mhm.
Okay. Sorry. This is the one of the issues. Okay. You can skip the slide. Actually, I have the environment issue. It is giving some errors to show the demo. But I
Okay.
can show you the configuration files and uh, how we uh, perform. Just give me a moment.
That'd be great.
I can stop sharing in the meantime if
Yes.
you'd like to share.
We do have one question in chat, which if you feel like you could answer it now or we're getting ready for this demo, that'd be great. If not, that's fine too. We can wait till afterwards. Does the migration take care of nested table migrations?
Share. Let me know if you're able to see my screen.
Yes, well,
Yeah, we can
Okay.
see here.
Okay. Uh, so okay, I have this server where my Oracle database is. I may not be able to show you the entire demo of the migration, but I'll brief you on what I currently have and what can be done. So this is one server where I have my Oracle database running, and I have few schemas and objects exist. I have this standalone database running. So I have one schema with different objects where we can see tables, indexes, procedures, sequence, and triggers. Okay, and this is schema. These are the tables with the respective number of rows. Okay. The installation of Oracle-to-PG is already completed on this system. So once we install Oracle-to-PG, it gets created. It creates the configuration file in this location, etc. Oracle-to-PG directory, and it it will have many variables, okay, that can be edited. comes with the default value. And as said in the previous slides, when explaining the slides, right, we have an option to edit all the parameters or required parameters that we use for the migration. So in this case, if you see here, there are few variables we have already edited with respect to home, the database connectivity, and similar to the Postgres connectivity. Okay, here we can see like I would like to perform the migration of HR schema. Okay, so this Oracle-to-PG config, sorry. So this Oracle-to-PG configuration file can be edited with respect to our requirements. Okay, and one of since we have already included the uh, schema as HR, okay, we can generate an estimate cost. Okay, Arun was saying, right, as part of the pre-migration tasks. Okay, one of the beautiful thing is we can generate an estimate report on how long, what cost it would involve for migrating this schema, which has multiple objects. Okay, I'm generating the report. Okay, I'll share you the report on how it looks like. Okay, so now I'll park it, right? Okay, I have a separate directory created. Okay, just create a project here. Okay, so as said, project is something which uh, helps us to perform the activity in a structured manner. Okay, so what it does is it creates the scripts as well as subdirectories for individual object types. So this project, I have uh, subdirectories as well as some scripts that it provides with uh, a few executables. So once we call this export schema, it does uh, export the DDLs of the objects that are existing in HR schema and whatever the data that is there in the tables. While this is running, let me bring that estimate report, cost estimate.
Sunny, quick time check. We have about 5 minutes. Maybe if you have the existing report, we could probably walk them.
Yeah, I think I can show. Yeah.
As we're getting here, okay, there you go. As we're getting here towards the end, again, if you guys have any questions, might be able to stick around for just a couple minutes for some questions. So
Sorry, I'll quickly wind
yeah,
up.
that's
Okay,
great.
so this is how the migration report, since this is just a small schema with less number of objects, it do not have much information, but this is how um, the estimation report looks like. Okay, so how many, it does have the information of the schema and its size, what are the different objects it has, and how many number of objects, everything, and what is the level of migration involved in order to migrate this schema is listed here. So this is how an estimation can be made before actually migrating a schema. So this export, it is extracting all the DDLs uh, and the data from the tables. And once this is done, we just need to use the same script which is created as part of the project creation. We need to use the same import into the Postgres. We provide the target like uh, um, I think it should be used with hyphen options for Postgres, the target and the database and the user to which or using which it has to connect to the target Postgres and perform the DDL operations first, which does create the objects definitions, followed by the actual data. Okay, just give me. Okay. So
Gotcha.
actually, this is an interactive tool or script which does ask us on what operations we need to perform, whether we need to import the objects. Sorry, it is. So what are the different like the schema is already existing. So it prompts for what different objects we want to import as part of this operation. Okay. So it prompted for it prompted whether the existing existing database to be dropped. Since we are using the default Postgres database, it is prompting whether it needs to be dropped before the schema migration. So we can give the prompt based on the need and sequences, then tables, prompts for views, then triggers. If you want to skip anything, you can skip. So uh, it does copy the or as I said, it does create the definition of that objects and then imports the data. Okay. I'll stop here. Sorry, we can't complete the demo due to time constraints.
No, there's a lot. There's a lot there. It's a necessary topic, right? It just continues to be more and more of a situation that everyone wants to chat about. I know even in our business, we're running lots of people who have spent 25 years in Oracle and now they're trying to understand Postgres and how to monitor it and how to make it better. And we took this Oracle database. Why doesn't it perform the same? And so no, this is great. I appreciate you guys giving us an intro to it.